The impeachment articles against DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas have just been released.
Oh, this is going to be good. Let's talk about this on the reading room. So, over the weekend, the House has released their articles of impeachment against DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. On Tuesday, January 30th, the House kicks off their impeachment of Alejandro Mayorkas. Now, I'm not really sure how this is all going to go down. I'm assuming in this hearing, they will be presenting all the articles of impeachment. And then after that, they will go to a vote. But I don't believe that the vote will happen the same day. More to come on that, but I thought it would be important to share the seriousness of this in a letter that former FBI agents had written to Congress explaining the threats that they see at this moment. Let me go through this letter so you can fully understand the gravity of why Mayorkas needs to be impeached and moved out of his position. So get comfortable. Let me read this out to you. Dear Mr. Speaker, Senate Majority Leader, and Chairman, as former senior executives of the Federal Bureau of Investigation with deep experience combating dangers to the nation, we write to express our concern about a current specific threat that may be one of the most pernicious ever to menace the United States. The danger arises from the nature of the threat itself. Wars and espionage and bombings and riots are sadly familiar delivery systems of instability, intimidation, and insecurity. The country has faced these and more throughout its history and has held together, though not without struggle. The threat we call out today is new and unfamiliar. In its modern history, the U.S. has never suffered an invasion of the homeland, and yet one is unfolding now. Military-age men from across the globe, many from countries or regions not friendly to the United States, are landing in waves on our soil by the thousands, not by splashing ashore from a ship or parachuting from a plane, but rather by foot across a border that has been accurately advertised around the world as largely unprotected with ready access granted. It would be difficult to overstate the danger represented by the presence inside our borders of what is comparatively a multi-division army of young single adult males from hostile nations and regions whose background, intent, or allegiance is completely unknown. They include individuals encountered by border officials and then possibly released into the country, along with a shockingly high estimate of gotaways, meaning those who have entered and evaded apprehension. In light of such a daunting, unprecedented penetration by uninvited foreign actors, it is reasonable to assert that the country possesses dramatically diminished national security at this time. The nation's military and laws and other natural protective barriers that have provided traditional security in the past have been thoroughly circumvented over the past 3 years. In 2021, the demographics of those crossing the porous southern boundaries started to shift. Young men from around the world traveling alone and holding questionable motivations dramatically increased in number to become the most common profile of those breaching the nation's borders. A startling number have been found on the terrorist watch lists or are from countries designated as state sponsors of terror distinctly unfriendly to the United States. This is particularly alarming in light of the Hamas terror attack on Israel last October 7th. Those of us who have fought terrorism know that, historically, successful terror attacks invite mimicry. We know as well that terror leaders intentionally cultivate throngs of young men possessing a certain easily manipulated personality type to carry out atrocities. It is stark to say so, but having a large number of young males now within our borders who could begin attacking gatherings of unarmed citizens in imitation of 10-7 and at the behest of a foreign terror group must be considered a distinct possibility. We would be remiss not to call out this potentially grave threat in the most direct terms. The warning lights are blinking. And yet, this very real concern does not seem to be getting the focus it logically deserves. The The director of the FBI has correctly assessed an elevated threat level since 10/7, but relatively little discussion has followed highlighting unsecure borders as a significant cause of this increasingly dangerous environment. It is a troubling concern that needs illumination, not avoidance. Any violation of the nation's immigration laws increases risks, but the surge in numbers of single military aged males descending upon American cities and towns is alarming and perilous. Additionally, they are not just from terror linked regions, but from China and Russia as well. Hostile adversaries of the U.S. with aspirations to devastate national infrastructure. For these reasons, elements of this recent surge are likely no accident or coincidence. These men are potential operators in what appears to be an accelerated and strategic penetration, a soft invasion designed to gain internal access to a country that cannot be invaded militarily in order to inflict catastrophic damage if and when enemies deem it necessary. This new reality, this never seen before threat, deserves greater attention. The borders need to be secured against these young men, and those already here illegally must be identified and removed without delay. This will take the coordinated, cooperative efforts of the FBI, Department of Homeland Security, and the rest of the intelligence community to achieve. We encourage these actions and much greater congressional attention to this threat. The country has been invaded, an invasion that will continue as long as the nation's enemies perceive it will be tolerated. Until it is stopped, the United States is extraordinarily less safe and secure. Knowing all of this, it would be a shameful travesty if some terrible attack, a preventable attack, were to occur against innocent Americans or the infrastructure that keeps the nation safe and functioning. The government will have failed grievously in its duty to protect. I mean, you can't get any more serious than that. And I think that more and more people need to understand this is not the Republicans' fault. This is truly the administration that we have now. I'm telling you this, I never want in my lifetime to ever experience another 9/11 again. And this has me worried because here I am in New York City and I'm seeing what's going on front row with all these people coming in. It terrifies me to see these Democrats be so reckless in not only their thought, but also in their action. And the fact that they like to deflect and blame other people for their own mistakes. This is, make no mistake, this is their mistake. And they choose to ignore it as if it doesn't exist. In fact, they don't even want to hear from the American people. Check out how New York treats its constituents. Watch how these Democrats ignore the voices that are in the audience.
And that we are joining with the city and state administration.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here with Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and members of our delegation, as well as other members from other states that are here to see for themselves what the migration dynamic is in our nation. And what we saw there with children, families, people that want to work, people that are fleeing violence, people that are fleeing environmental disasters. We see so many stories, heartbreaking stories, manifest itself here. But I think these are folks that will take New York City to a better place. Every crisis presents great opportunity. There's hope and opportunity in this building. So I wanted to thank all my colleagues for coming. As you can see, this is a contentious issue, but we are all Americans, and we all believe in the American dream. That's the common denominator here, the American dream. We believe in it, and we will fight for it. With that?
Yes, and ultimately I think that there are 3 points of consensus here that are very important in getting a solution to this issue. The first is that there is consensus here across geography and states on increased federal resources to cities and municipalities dealing with this issue. The second is to allow for work authorizations so that the folks in here can get to work and start supporting themselves as soon as possible. They are prevented from getting jobs, they are prevented from employment, and that is part of the strain on our public systems. The faster that folks can access the work that they're asking for legally, the better we can solve this problem. And the third is extension of temporary protected status for Venezuelans, who are the largest population that are arriving here. So with that, we thank you all, and ready to wrap up?
Well, the American dream will not be bullied into submission today. We will continue to fight for the American dream. We will not be bullied. We will not be pushed into a corner. We will fight for these common sense solutions. TPS for the Venezuelans, an extension. They already have TPS. Work permits for people that just want to work for their families. Additional funding, yes, for New York City needs more funding so we can get this done. God bless you, America. We love you.
Their solution is to give more taxpayer money and give these migrants more resources and more access to opportunities that even New York residents don't even have. These Democrats get me so angry every time they open their mouth. It's like they never put the constituents first. They never think about the people that they're supposed to be serving or even listening. So when people say, well, why don't you write to your senator? Well, here's the problem. The senators that I have are exactly like this. They don't want to hear the problems that the residents and the people who are paying the state taxes have as a result of the problems that they have created. These jackasses are in it to only serve themselves. And here's a perfect example. So for those that say, well, Trump is this and Trump is that, Trump didn't sell out its people like what these people have done. And to show you how passionate that some of these Republicans are in putting America first, here is the House representative for Louisiana. And I'm going to leave on that because, you know what? Mayorkas needs to go. And tomorrow, I can't wait to see what unfolds with this. God willing that this guy gets kicked out ASAP.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Secretary, your stand in your testimony today regarding operational control of our southern border, which by any reasonable man's definition has certainly been lost. You're standing on a word in the legislation that gave birth to the specific law saying all illegal crossings and no one's ever. We'll take a drip. America be okay with that? Which you and your execution of your inaugurated president's policy have given America is a flood. We've identified over 11 laws that you violated. Some of the most egregious, the Secure Fence Act, 2006, concerning operational control. Immigration Nationalization Act 236, Section C, 8, U.S. Code 1226, concerning detention. INA 241, Section A, 2, U.S. Code 8, 1231, concerning detention. Immigration and Nationalization Act, Section D, 5, Alpha, 8 U.S. Code 1182, concerning parole. We've given you ample opportunity to seek some sort of honorable exit from your executive position, sir. We take no pleasure in witnessing you dismantle yourself as a fellow American before the whole country. Your legacy, millions of illegals enter our country, millions under your watch, loss of operational control of our border, aligning DHS policy as an asset to Mexican cartel drug and human trafficking, the disintegration of our national sovereignty, destruction of countless thousands of Texas family lives, overwhelming crime waves sweeping across our country, over 1 million criminal runners you call gotaways flooding into America, many carrying backpacks loaded with deadly fentanyl and meth, or herding teenage girls into prostitution, sex slave networks across America. 225,000 Americans dead from Mexican cartel drug overdose since you took office 2 years ago. You and your inaugurated president, but mostly you, sir, because you have your whole mind about you. And you have a highly decorated background in border operations, so you're supposed to be the expert. You, sir, are the Secretary of Homeland Security who has failed in your sworn oath to protect our nation from invasion. You had an obligation to execute the president's policies or advise the president if his policies were bringing injury to America. Ultimately, your oath requires you to secure our nation's sovereign border with Mexico and do anything necessary to stop the Mexican cartels from trafficking endless wave upon human wave of illegals into America, along with miserable death, unspeakable grief, graveyards filled from sea to shining sea with the bodies of American sons and daughters dead from fentanyl. You've brought generational trauma upon our country. I believe history will witness your era of service as a transitional time in our country. Well, what was America like before Secretary Mayorkas, and what was America like after him? It's stunning that you could sit there and smugly grin as if you've not miserably failed your country. We could give you money to hire 1,000 new border agents. Nobody wants to work for you. They're coming forth. We can't keep up with the whistleblowers that are coming to testify against your command. We could give you money to deploy all sorts of new technology. I have evidence in my file that you've given command to not deploy technology that you currently have because it interfered with the cartel's business model. We're done with your lies to America. It's shameful what you brought upon our country. Mr. Chairman, I have no interest in asking this secretary any questions. He obfuscates and lies.
Mr. Chairman.
I yield.
Mr. Chairman.
The gentleman yields. The chair recognizes Ms. Jackson-Lee.
Mr. Secretary, I'll give you a moment, but my question is as I start my questioning, and you know time is short, do you take an oath, and on behalf of the men and women of the Department of Homeland Security, particularly those responsible for border security in the North and the South, to protect the American people, and are you doing it in the best manner, the securest manner, the honest manner with integrity to save the lives of the American people and to ensure that hamlets, cities, counties, and otherwise are safe and that our domestic security is safe?
Yes, I am, Congresswoman.
And did you want to have a sentence responding to the gentleman?
No, I've chosen not to. Thank you.
I definitely am going to continue to keep following this particular situation closely. You don't want to miss it, so please don't forget to subscribe and like this video so you can be notified of more informative videos such as this. As I've said this before, this is a learning journey for me, and I've set this channel up to invite anyone who wants to come along to help get to a semblance of truth and reality. I believe that it is the responsibility of each of us to take ownership of our freedoms. The more informed we are, the better we can make choices instead of having the government do it for us. It's not going to be easy, but I have faith that we will be able to turn this ship around. Remember, we are the majority. They need us more than we need them. Stand tall and do not be afraid to use your voice. In repeating the words of Ben Franklin, any society that would give up a little liberty to gain a little security will deserve neither and lose both. Remember those words when you see the manipulation of these leaders forcing you to compromise. Do not be fooled, otherwise you will be enslaved. The choice is yours while you still have it. Chew on that, and I'll catch you later.